Welcome back to part 2 of
Glowing in Tech, powered by Makers. And we are joined by the marvelous, the fabulous
Nelly.
Woohoo!
Woo-woo! Last week, we spoke about Azure, how Nelly managed to use open source to land a role in the UK and transition from being a girl from Kenya to going to the bright world of Burgess Hill in the UK.
So now I'd really love to ask you about what your biggest career challenge has been to date and how you overcame that.
Yeah, I think for me it was when I moved. When I moved from Kenya, like everything was completely new, and especially when in career perspective terms, it was difficult being in a place where I was looking at myself. Everyone is different from me. In the building, approximately maybe there were like 700 to 800 people, and if I count the number of Black people who were there, then it was 3 people.
Wow.
Yeah, two women, Maureen and I, and Derek. And it was very daunting because I wasn't sure how to even interact or just to feel comfortable to be myself in that environment. I went into a shell basically. And especially because a lot of things about me were also very new to the people I was working with. From the way I talked to the way I just carried myself. Nothing negative about it. It's just that you could tell also people when you meet someone new, there's a way you act towards them.
It's like the unwritten rules.
Yeah, unwritten rules. And I think the culture change compared to how it was in Kenya, I could clearly see it. I feel like in the UK, people have social groups and they stick to them. And it's much more harder to break those. So I didn't feel like I knew people, first of all, because I was moving and I was trying to make friends. But I was happy that we were part of like a graduate group. So that was a really nice place to start off because a lot of us were coming from different parts of the world. So we were all trying to, meet each other, get to know each other. And in terms of my career, I used to be an Android engineer when I was in Kenya, and now I was transitioning to web development. And it wasn't by choice. At that particular point in the team that I joined, there were no opportunities for doing Android programming. So I had to do web development. And I don't think I didn't have the opportunity to fight it because I didn't feel like there was so much happening in my life at that time, especially getting to settle down. So it took me, it just brought me further into like a shell. Yeah. And as I mentioned before, like my accent was another thing. So speaking up was also becoming like difficult. I'm soft spoken. I would say that then I just became worse.
Yeah.
Like someone would tell me, "Oh, Nelly, can you speak up?" And I'm just like,
oh. So it's new job, it's new continent, it's new speciality, like new area of tech to work in. Like, what did you do to kind of survive that?
Yeah, first of all, I started creating a community around me and finding things that people that could resonate to it, and that really helped. And finding a community meant also telling people what I was struggling with, people that I trusted and who could have helped me. It started off like, let's say, speaking with my boss about, this is a new technology for me. I'm looking for opportunities where I can use my previous experience. I used to do Android, which was Java. So I was able to continue doing some bits of Java here and there as I learned that. And also, this took a lot, but changing my frame of reference in terms of thinking about this as like, this is just going to help me get to the next level. And as well as I'm learning, the different things I'm learning doesn't necessarily have to be like web development. It can be just learning how to work in a team, learning how the product works, how Amex works at that time. It meant learning how to make friends. Making friends as an adult is difficult, but learning that
it's really so hard.
Yeah, so it's changing that mindset, but also I don't think I had grace for myself then, but this is just like looking back. I didn't have grace with myself. I just kept on, even if I do something, I'll just keep on beating up myself. Like, and I think their communities really helped me, and seeing other people grow and progress, and having people around me who pushed me, like my leader would say, "Oh, Nelly, you accomplished this. That's really great.
Yeah.
Next time, he'll give me an opportunity to now grow that further, giving me more opportunities within the team to grow." Because I feel like at that time, I didn't even have enough confidence in myself to feel like I can do this.
That's such an important point. It's like, it's not just, you can't be the only one to advocate for yourself. You need to have the people in your team that are advocating for you.
Exactly.
And
I was very lucky I had that. Until to a point where I realized, like, I also need to advocate for myself. Because now it gets to a point where someone can't know everything that you do, right? So you have to be very proactive, especially in the workplace, to share with people your what you do. And in my culture, the culture I grew up in, Kenya, there's like a lot of tendency to be like, if you speak about what you do, it's considered bragging.
Yes.
But then you live in this world where you're not proud of yourself or the work that you do, and if you do that, you feel like you're a prideful person. So it took a lot for me to even get that out of that shell where I felt like I am proud of this work. I really worked hard for it. I went through so many challenges to come up with this. I learned a lot, and I'm really proud of it. Because once people learn about that, then now they can give even more opportunities. Right?
Exactly. That journey of unlearning then learning is quite a challenging one. So unlearning those beliefs that, oh, if I talk about my success and people are going to think this and I'm going to be a boastful person, to actually learning that, well, if I want to get promoted and progress within the company, this is just something that I need to learn how to do. Because I feel like there's with those beliefs comes the fact that, I'm going on a tangent here, but it's just the fact that especially for women, like a lot of us have those internalized beliefs that if we talk about our accomplishments, it'll be seen as bragful and all these things. But this is why sometimes we're not progressing the way that we see other people are, because other people are talking about doing the bare minimum and they're talking about it like it's the greatest, new, most innovative thing ever. So yeah, I completely resonate with the fact that you had to unlearn that and then relearn, and just how challenging that journey is.
Yeah.
Because if you're not shouting about your wins and you're not like taking the time to recognize them, then you could lose your motivation, right? Like you might not even. I think it's really important, like for your own recognition, to see that you're making that progress, and then, like you said, Amber, like making sure that everybody else is seeing it so they can recognize your progress too.
Yeah, because even you in the first part, you're talking about the fact that someone didn't know that you were able to do a project. The one when you took over from the senior dev. And that's another reason why it's so important for you to be able to communicate what you can do, because then they'll be like, oh, Nelly can do this. Exactly. In fact, why isn't Nelly the senior on the team? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
yeah. And just being okay with feeling uncomfortable about not knowing anything.
Yeah.
I feel like if you find yourself, especially in tech, where you're feeling like comfortable, you're just doing bare minimum at work, you need to check yourself, because
why quitting? Not today, people. Not today.
Got more ambition than that.
You could be doing so many interesting stuff. So I'd say just push yourself, even if it means, that feeling of being uncomfortable. Okay, probably I'm talking about it because I enjoy it. Sometimes it's so scary. Someone has given me this task, especially now that I'm in a new role. It's just like every single day I'm just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm so scared. Like, especially the role I have is that a customer comes to you expecting you to know everything. You're like at the line of, I'm speaking to this person so that they can help me with this challenge that the documentation is not helping me. So you get comfortable with even just saying, I don't know right now, but give me some time. I'll get back to you with the right answer. And just being comfortable saying I don't know, and then going to seek that information, come back, and also looking for people to help you. So saying something like, I have a colleague who knows about this. Let me just talk to them, and then they can help. And then you learn as well, right?
All right. So now the people need to know top phrases. If you don't know something, what is the go-to phrases for us to say?
If you don't know something, if you don't know something.
Yeah, if I ask you a question, you don't know the answer.
What's the go-to phrases for us to say?
I usually just say, sorry, I don't know what, I don't know that, but I'm happy to go back, do some research, and then get back to you on it.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah, I feel like even in interviews, no point just saying,
Waffling.
I find it funny because if it was me, I'd just probably be rambling. Oh my God, I just don't even know what to tell you. You especially in tech, because there's just like, you walk around a lot of facts.
Yeah.
What can you, it's just better to say, I don't know. And also it just shows like you have like a growth mindset.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That you are open to learning something new, and it's okay that you don't know.
It's my favorite part of the episode. What is the tech tea? Nelly will be spilling the tea on something controversial in the tech industry. So Nelly, data privacy, what's the tea?
Yeah. I'm not an expert in data privacy. I feel like it's one of those field areas where there's so many lawyers, so I can't speak too much on that. But my opinion is around, I know there's a lot of talk around data privacy, especially our data. And with GDPR, which came out, now every website you go to has like the cookie consent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's okay to accept it so that they can give you better adverts. Like, companies are doing it right now just to pass the law and regulations. But being someone who knows how websites are built behind the scenes, if someone decides to be a bad actor and go for you, they can actually go, I feel like they can just go for you and, steal your data. So I think it's just becoming more comfortable and introducing better regulations around it, and also being I'm not finding the right word, but just being a good human being as we build software, especially as software developers, to ensure that we call out this type of behaviors in, like, when you're building the product, just say, why do we need that customer information to do what? What type of information is that for?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have more voices than the people who are seeing the cookie concept. Have you ever clicked on it and seen like the tiny information there?
Oh my goodness. Don't get me started on that. And the user experience is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it get better now, progressively. Like, it's actually easier now to reject all cookies. But babes, the untoggling of the things, I don't have time. So back in the day, accept all. Wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even think about it. But it's just like, it's so good, the fact that you're even calling out the fact that it's actually quite dangerous. It's so normalized when you go on a website. We expect the pop-up. If the pop-up isn't there, I'm like, oh, this is a nice experience.
It's really interesting that you're saying that the responsibility lies on us that are in those meetings, that we're talking about building that feature and around the data that we might need from a user in order to build that feature. How do you think we can best advocate for the user's needs?
Oh, that's a really good question. I feel like we should put ourselves in the shoes of the users. Most of the time, most of the products that we build, we use them. So we can better advocate for all types of users. And I feel like the field around, especially accessibility, is important.
Yes.
And as well as making sure that the people in the meeting are diverse. Like, you're listening to everyone in that meeting and making sure it's not same type of individual in those meetings, so that you have varied opinions. And another way we could advocate for users is feeling comfortable to call out that when you see that, especially even if it's not the website that you built, someone else's website, and being involved around that type of research. Sometimes I feel like, yes, we want to make money, but we also have to think about how we make that money and think about how this user information is being used and who's being hurt. Because if you don't think about how that's going to affect your users, then I feel like you're failing the users.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially if the cookies aren't required. Trust and believe, when I'm booking them flights, right, I'm clearing all cookies. And then, when you try to search for something, they don't know what I'm talking about. When I'm trying to log in, they don't know any of my details. The required cookies, they're good. But it's when, like, they're taking stuff that I wouldn't even think that they're able to get this information just from me clicking on something, just from me checking out something in my cart. It's quite disturbing almost.
Yeah. And I feel like especially personal information that, you know, you'd want to be like, let's say your health data.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to share it with someone that you know this is where my information would be. But if someone decides to take that information and feed it into some other system that you're not aware of or sell it, then I feel like that's where, you know, you need to make the user aware. If you want to use their data for that, I feel like it's fine because you have to do research has to happen of some sort.
Definitely. And I think that the average tech consumer isn't going to be aware of like when they're submitting their personal data, the strength and resilience of the security team of that company that's then storing their data.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Like I'm seeing on my Fitbit, okay, cool, 11,000 steps, and I don't know that data is going to somewhere else. Who?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing with that? I just want to know.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time to wrap up the episode.
I'd like to ask if you have one final parting piece of advice for somebody that wants to emulate like such a varied career, because from my perspective, I'm somebody that did a boot camp, decided very early on that I really loved backend and that's what I wanted to do. And I've been there since. It's been 2 years now nearly that I'm in a backend role. And I don't know, there is like a lot of fear around like if I was to move into front end, I'd have to start from the beginning, or I don't know how I would do it. So I just wanted to know if you have any advice for somebody that is quite deep in a specialty and is considering like switching it up, because you've done it quite a few times successfully.
Very successfully.
That's a really good question. And I feel like the reason why I did it is because I find something new that I want to try out, and I find interesting. But as well as I give myself opportunities to test out different things, even if I'm like, let's say you're doing Android programming right now. So I would say building a website just to see how the field is, right? Could be a way to test out the front end area. So that's how I started in most of this. I'll be doing something right now, and then there'll be a need in the team, let's say, for someone who, like, let's say when we were doing AngularJS, there was a need in the team to move to React. So I started looking into React. So I made that like one of my development goals. Let me try this out. It looks really interesting. And then eventually moved to a team doing React full time. And then started doing GitHub, like the pipelines, developer pipelines. Then I found myself doing GitHub Actions, open source GitHub Actions, and then loving that. And then looking for another opportunity now to switch. I think the key thing is that probably that I need to mention is that it doesn't mean that I wiped up all my, previous skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously for things like, let's say if I'm switching from a front end language to, let's say, like maybe I'm doing JavaScript to Go, that's a complete switch, right? But you see patterns, right? Like now I'm doing Go programming.
Ooh.
That's me learning from scratch, but it's like, and I'm contributing to open source through that. It's just like I see patterns within it that maybe I saw in Java programming or JavaScript. So it's like now I get a new type of skill where it's like you become like pattern matching stuff.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's really cool.
So I feel like when you think about transitioning, it's more like, how do I use my existing skills to help me branch into this new field and make them, which is similar to how like someone talks about, I want to break into tech. It's just the same philosophy.
Yeah.
I would never say, break into tech and forget all those skills that you've been working on. And sometimes they make you even such a unique, amazing individual because of such unique skills that you carry with you. Like, let's say if you did like geography and then you switch to doing tech. I don't even understand how your brain works at that point but it's just like, how do you solve problems must be like amazing when you think about them. Like you would think about them. This is just me making up stuff, but maybe you think about it from a perspective of, okay, this is what I used to learn in geography and around, let's say, the world. And now I can think about like these programming languages in those terms. So that's how I think. Like, let's say, this is how I used to do this in JavaScript, but now I'm doing Go. This is how we do it. So if I look at an if statement in JavaScript and one in I'll start writing it off in JavaScript. And then I realize, it's just a few things that I need to move here and there.
Syntax
The same
changes.
thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's not like I'm learning a new skills. So I'd say like, if you want to do that or looking into that, you can switch using your existing skill and start from there.
Yeah.
And just test out the waters. Using stuff like open source is great.
No, that's great.
The syntax thing was a big problem.
Yeah.
I used to love Python back in the day. Don't tell anyone. It's a secret between us. And I remember when I was trying to learn JavaScript, I'd be so annoyed because I'd be able to solve the problem in Python. So it wasn't the problem solving aspect.
Yeah.
It was more of the syntax.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and I think that's a good aspect of looking at it. It's kind of like it makes you now see side by side that as much as you want to learn something new, it doesn't mean that everything is going to be new. Some things will be new, but most of, like, let's say the complex part, which I think is a problem solving, how to solve it, that's sorted. It's just like the syntax, which can also be quite complex, but yeah. And it's a great thing to do.
Yeah. We had someone recently join the team who it's their first engineering role, but they had trained formally as an architect and gone to university, done a master's, and now is in a back-end role. And even then, for them, understanding the concepts of being able to engineer and like a higher level, like building something from scratch, they already have some fundamentals, even if it's a completely different industry.
Yeah.
So I love that point.
That's really cool.
But yeah, I think that's us.
It's a wrap, people. It's a wrap. I've had so much. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I'm inspired.
I'm inspired.
Yeah.
By yourself. She's like, my story's so great. I'm inspired by me.
No,
it
thank you
is
so much,
yeah.
Nelly. We've loved having you today. I'd really love to know where we can keep up with you. Where do you post, and how can we find out more about what you do?
I'm not quite active in social media, but you can find me on LinkedIn, Nelly Kiboi, on Twitter, Nelly Kiboi. Yeah, those are the two platforms I actively use. And GitHub, Nelly K. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
But if you Google my name, you'll be able to find me on.
Oh, she's Googleable.
That's a flex.
That's a flex.
No, I'm sure if I Google you guys, it'll be the same.
Jesse's 100% Googleable.
Even you too.
All the resources that we spoke about will be available in the show notes.
Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll see you next week.
Tune in next week. Until then,
don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Available on all major podcast platforms.